Emma had always loved the quiet hours just after dawn. The world felt softer then, calm, still, and wrapped in a gentle mist. Every morning, before the town stirred awake, she took her usual walk along the forest trail near her small coastal home. It was a simple routine, a time for her thoughts to settle and for her to breathe in the salty air. Today, however, the fog seemed thicker, hanging low over the ground like a secret waiting to be discovered. As she rounded a bend near the edge of the woods, something caught her eye. At first, it was just a flicker of movement, a shadow barely visible through the gray haze. Emma slowed her pace, curiosity pulling her closer. That's when she saw him, a golden retriever lying on the damp earth, his fur matted and dirty, his breathing shallow. Emma's heart clenched. The dog was thin, his ribs showing through patches of tangled hair, and one of his legs was bent awkwardly beneath him. He lifted his head weakly and looked at her with eyes so full of pain and fear, it felt like a silent plea. She knelt down, speaking softly in a voice meant to comfort both herself and the trembling animal. "It's okay, boy. I'm here to help," she whispered, careful not to startle him. The dog didn't move, but his tail twitched faintly, like a fragile sign of trust. Emma scanned the area quickly. No collar, no tags, no signs of anyone nearby. The fog muffled all sounds except the distant call of a seagull. She knew she couldn't leave him here. Emma had never owned a dog. Her small apartment wasn't made for pets, and money was tight. But the dog's pain was immediate, urgent. Without thinking twice, she bent carefully under his weight and lifted him into her arms. He was surprisingly light, almost fragile. His eyes closed briefly as if exhausted, but he didn't resist. The walk back home was slow. Emma whispered encouraging words as she cradled him, feeling the rough rasp of his tongue against her skin when he nuzzled her hand. When she reached her apartment, she made a bed of old towels on the floor and gently laid him down. Then she fetched a bowl of water and sat beside him, watching for any sign of improvement. For hours, Emma stayed by his side, her fingers brushing through the tangled fur, trying to ease the discomfort she could not see. As night fell, she wrapped a blanket around him and called him Max, the name coming to her like a quiet hope that somehow this little dog might find strength again. Though exhausted, Max's eyes never left Emma's face. When she finally stood to get some rest, he struggled to sit up, limping toward her with surprising determination. Emma's heart swelled with something new, something deeper than pity. She realized she wasn't just caring for a stray dog. She was forming a bond with a creature who needed her as much as she needed him. That night, as Emma lay awake listening to Max's soft breathing, she felt the first flicker of a strange and powerful connection. It was more than kindness. It was the beginning of a story neither of them could have imagined. Days passed, and Max's health steadily improved. The limp in his leg grew less pronounced, and the golden shine began to return to his fur. Emma spent every spare moment caring for him, coaxing him to eat with gentle words and careful hands. The dog, once weak and frightened, was now beginning to trust her completely. Max's loyalty was unmistakable. From the moment Emma woke each morning, Max was at her side, tail wagging quietly, eyes bright with a kind of steady devotion. He followed her everywhere, into the kitchen, the living room, and even to the small garden she tended behind the apartment building. At night, he curled up right next to her bed, refusing to sleep anywhere else. The townspeople soon noticed. At the grocery store, neighbors would smile and ask about the dog that never seemed to leave Emma's shadow. At the library where Emma worked, Max waited patiently outside, sometimes lying in the sun near the entrance. Word spread. The dog she saved was now her constant companion, a fixture of her daily life. Emma, too, was surprised by how deeply attached she had become. It wasn't just that Max needed her. It was that she needed him. In a quiet way, he filled a space she hadn't realized was empty. Since the sudden passing of her mother a few years ago, Emma's life had been quiet and solitary. Max's presence brought warmth and companionship she hadn't dared hope for. But as the bond grew, so did something else, a quiet tension beneath the surface. Max was more than just loyal. He was watchful, alert in ways that made Emma uneasy. Whenever a stranger approached, Max's ears would twitch, and he would stand firmly between Emma and the unknown. Once, when a group of teenagers laughed loudly down the street, Max growled softly, his body rigid and protective. Emma tried to brush it off, telling herself it was just a dog's natural instinct. Yet there were moments when Max's eyes seemed filled with something deeper, fear or warning, that Emma couldn't explain. Sometimes at night, she'd hear him growl softly at the dark corners of her apartment, as if sensing a presence she couldn't see. One afternoon, Emma sat by the window, sipping tea while Max lay close beside her. A sudden noise outside, a car door slamming shut, made Max's head snap up instantly. He stared toward the street, his entire body tense. Emma reached down and placed a soothing hand on his fur. "It's okay, Max," she said gently. "You're safe here." Max looked up at her then, his eyes wide and steady. It was as if he was trying to tell her something she couldn't quite understand. Emma felt a strange chill crawl along her spine. How could a dog be so certain that danger lurked nearby? What had he been through before she found him? That evening, Emma sat in her favorite armchair, Max curled up at her feet. The room was warm, but her mind raced with questions. She wondered about the dog's past, the months, maybe years, he had spent alone and afraid. How had he survived? Why had he chosen her? And why did he seem so desperate to protect her, even now? Despite her worries, Emma knew one thing for certain. Max wasn't just a pet. He was her companion, her protector, and her friend. And no matter what shadows hung over their pasts, they would face them together. As she reached down to stroke Max's head, she whispered, "I'm glad you're here." Max's tail thumped softly against the floor, and for the first time since she found him, Emma allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they were both saved that day. Weeks passed, and Max settled into life with Emma like a shadow tethered to her side. Yet the strange behavior that Emma had noticed before seemed to grow more pronounced, more difficult to ignore. Max was no longer just a quiet companion. He was a vigilant guardian. It started with small things. Max would suddenly stop mid-walk, ears pricked and body stiff, staring at invisible figures only he could see. Once, in the middle of the library where Emma worked, Max barked sharply at an empty aisle, causing several patrons to glance over in surprise. Emma had to quickly reassure them it was nothing. But inside, her heart pounded with unease. At home, Max's restlessness increased. He paced the floors late into the night, growling softly at corners of the room bathed in shadow. Sometimes he would whimper quietly, his body pressed low against the walls as if trying to disappear. Emma found herself watching him closely, wondering if the dog was haunted by memories she couldn't share or understand. One evening, after a long day at work, Emma returned to find Max standing near the front door, ears flat and tail tucked tightly between his legs. When she knelt down to comfort him, Max suddenly lunged toward the window, barking fiercely at the empty street. Emma's pulse quickened. There was no one there, but Max's terror was real. "Max, what is it?" she whispered, her fingers trembling as they touched his fur. He turned to her, eyes wide and anxious, then looked back outside, as if warning her about something unseen. Emma hugged him close, but the feeling of unease lingered like a shadow in the room. That night, sleep eluded Emma. She lay awake listening to the soft sounds of Max shifting beside her. Occasionally, she heard low growls directed at the darkness. When she reached out to calm him, his eyes flicked open, filled with fear and urgency. "Please," she murmured, "tell me what you're afraid of." But Max only rested his head on her hand, his body tense as if waiting for something to come through the door. The next morning, Emma tried to distract herself with work, but the tension followed her like a storm cloud. Her thoughts kept returning to Max's strange behavior and the questions she had no answers for. She wondered if she was imagining things, or if Max really was trying to protect her from some hidden danger. One afternoon, while walking Max near the forest trail where she had first found him, Emma felt a sudden chill. Max stopped abruptly, his body frozen and ears alert. He growled low and deep, staring into the thick underbrush. Emma strained her eyes, but she saw nothing. "Max, what do you see?" she asked softly. The dog took a cautious step forward, then retreated, whining softly. Emma's heart sank. The forest, once a place of peaceful morning walks, now felt heavy with secrets. She wondered what Max had endured there before she rescued him. That evening, Emma reached out to a friend who worked with animals and mentioned Max's behavior. Her friend listened carefully and suggested something Emma hadn't considered, that Max might be reacting to past trauma or even sensing danger Emma couldn't. Emma wasn't sure if she was ready to face that truth, but she knew one thing. Max's protectiveness was more than just instinct. It was a message, a warning that they both needed to understand. As Emma sat by the window, Max resting his head on her lap, she whispered, "We'll figure this out together." For the first time, the quiet bond between them felt like the beginning of something far greater than companionship. It was a promise of protection, trust, and an unspoken truth waiting to be uncovered. One rainy afternoon, as Emma sat alone in the cozy corner of the local cafe, Max curled at her feet. A stranger's words changed everything. The door chimed softly as a man stepped inside, shaking off the drizzle from his coat. He glanced around before his eyes settled on Emma and Max. The dog was alert, watching the man with cautious eyes, but there was no growl or bark. Instead, Max seemed curious, almost expectant. The man approached slowly, carrying a gentle calm. "Excuse me," he said, his voice warm but quiet. "I couldn't help but notice your dog's behavior. He seems different." Emma looked up, surprised. "Different? How?" The stranger smiled faintly and pulled out a card. "My name is Daniel. I'm an animal behaviorist. I travel a lot, helping dogs and their owners understand each other better. Your Max is showing signs that go beyond normal loyalty. He's protective, yes, but it's clear he's guarding you from something." Emma's eyebrows knit in confusion. "Guarding me? From what?" Daniel pulled up a chair and sat down, keeping his tone gentle. "Dogs pick up on things we often miss. Energies, emotions, even dangers we're unaware of. Max isn't just attached to you because you saved him. He's reacting to something he fears, something he's seen or sensed that's threatening." Emma glanced down at Max, who was sitting rigidly, eyes scanning the room with a watchful intensity. "But what could that be? I haven't felt threatened." Sometimes, it's not about how you feel. It's about what Max remembers. Dogs have incredible memories, especially about trauma. He might have witnessed something dangerous before you found him, or he might sense a danger close by now. Daniel's gaze was steady, almost knowing. Emma's heart quickened. She thought back to the day she found Max, alone, injured, terrified near the edge of the forest trail. Could something have happened there? Something Max was protecting her from even now. "Has he shown any other behavior?" Daniel asked, leaning forward slightly. Emma nodded. "He growls at shadows, barks at empty corners, and sometimes refuses to leave my side. It's like he's scared but also ready to protect." Daniel smiled softly. "That's exactly it. Max's behavior is a protective response. He's guarding you, yes, but also reliving whatever frightened him before. Understanding this is the first step to helping both of you find peace." Emma felt a mixture of relief and worry. Relief that Max's behavior had a reason, and worry about what that reason might be. "Would you be willing to let me observe Max for a few days?" Daniel asked. Sometimes, an outside perspective can help uncover what's hidden. Emma hesitated but then nodded. "Yes, I want to help him, and myself, understand what's going on." Daniel smiled again, grateful. "Good. We'll take it one step at a time. That afternoon marked a turning point. As Daniel watched Max with a patient, knowledgeable eye, Emma felt hope flicker inside her. Maybe now she would finally uncover the mystery behind Max's fear, and the truth he was trying so hard to protect her from. Max, for his part, seemed to sense the change too. His stance softened just a little, though he never stopped watching Emma with the fierce devotion she had come to rely on. Together, the three of them prepared to face whatever truths the past had hidden. Truths that would test their courage and deepen the bond between a woman and the dog who wouldn't leave her side. With Daniel's arrival came a new sense of purpose. Emma watched as the animal behaviorist quietly observed Max during their daily routines, how he moved, where his attention lingered, and what set him on edge. Daniel didn't rush, choosing instead to let Max reveal his fears on his own terms. One afternoon, as Emma prepared tea in the kitchen, Daniel sat on the couch watching Max closely. The dog lay still, ears flicking toward the window where rain pattered softly outside. Then, suddenly, Max stiffened. His head snapped up, eyes locked on the door, as if expecting someone to enter. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. He's on alert. Something about this place makes him uneasy, even if you don't feel it. Emma swallowed hard. I thought it was just my imagination. But he's right. Sometimes I feel like there's something watching me too. Daniel stood and moved closer to Max. Dogs are much more sensitive than we are. They pick up on sounds, scents, and energies we can't detect. Max is trying to protect you from something. Maybe something you've never even noticed. Over the next several days, Daniel visited Emma's home often, gently asking questions about the dog's past and the day Emma found him. Emma recounted everything she could remember. The foggy morning, the thin and injured dog, the eerie silence of the forest trail. But there were gaps in her memory, moments clouded by fear and confusion. One afternoon, Daniel suggested they take a walk together on the same forest trail where Max was found. Emma agreed, a knot tightening in her stomach. As they approached the edge of the woods, Max suddenly halted. His entire body tensed as his gaze swept the underbrush. Daniel whispered, "Look at his body language. He's not just afraid. He's remembering." Emma scanned the area, but saw nothing unusual. Just trees swaying gently in the breeze and leaves rustling beneath their feet. But Daniel's words stayed with her. Back in town, Emma called the local ranger station, seeking information about the forest trail. What she learned unsettled her deeply. Just days before she had found Max, rangers had responded to reports of suspicious activity. Footprints, torn fabric, and faint sounds in the woods that suggested someone had been lurking there. Emma's voice trembled as she shared this with Daniel. Could Max have seen something dangerous? Something that's still out there? Daniel nodded slowly. It's very possible. Dogs like Max can remember traumatic events with incredible clarity. His protectiveness isn't just about you. It's about what he witnessed before you found him. The pieces began to fit together in Emma's mind. Max's loyalty was more than devotion. It was a silent promise to keep her safe from the unknown danger lurking near their home. That evening, as Emma sat with Max resting his head on her lap, she realized their bond was deeper than she had imagined. Max had chosen her not only for comfort, but because she was someone he needed to protect. With Daniel's help, Emma felt ready to face the truth hidden in the shadows of the forest trail. A truth that might finally explain why Max would never leave her side. Emma's mind was restless as she stared out the window, the rain tracing slow lines down the glass. Every detail Daniel had shared echoed in her thoughts. The forest trail wasn't just a quiet path. It held secrets, and Max's fear wasn't random. It was tied to something dark and real, something Emma hadn't been ready to face. The next morning, with Daniel by her side, Emma returned to the edge of the forest. The mist curled low again, wrapping the trees in a ghostly veil. Max led the way, his nose to the ground, ears twitching at every sound. He stopped suddenly near a cluster of broken branches and torn leaves, his body rigid with tension. Daniel knelt beside him. "This is where it happened," he said quietly. Emma's heart hammered. She looked around, searching for any sign, something to explain the dog's terror. That's when the ranger arrived. A tall man with a weathered face. He approached slowly, nodding at Daniel and Emma. "I heard you wanted to know more about the incidents here," he said. "There's been trouble. People trespassing, strange noises at night. We found signs of a struggle. Clothes torn, footprints leading into the woods and disappearing." Emma swallowed hard. Could someone have hurt Max here? The ranger looked at the dog, who sat quietly at Emma's feet, watching everything with guarded eyes. "It's possible. Animals see and hear more than we think. If Max was here, he could have been protecting himself, or someone else." Emma glanced down at Max, her faithful companion, feeling a mix of sorrow and awe. Max had survived something terrible. He had carried the weight of that trauma silently until now. As the sun dipped low, Daniel and Emma walked back to the apartment, Max walking steadily between them, no longer afraid but alert. Over the following days, Emma pieced together stories from locals, whispers of someone lurking near the trail, strange sounds that frightened even the most hardened woodsman. It became clear that Max's fear was tied to real danger, a danger that might still be nearby. One evening, as Emma sat with Max, she noticed something she hadn't before, a small scar near his left eye, a mark from the past, a reminder of what he had endured. Max looked up at her, eyes softening. For the first time, Emma felt the full weight of what he had been through, not just a stray dog, but a survivor, a guardian. That night, as the wind whispered outside, Emma made a silent promise. She would protect Max now, just as he had protected her from dangers she hadn't known existed. Their bond was no longer just about comfort or companionship. It was about trust, resilience, and the quiet strength of a dog who had saved a woman. And the woman who would never leave him alone. Emma could no longer ignore the unease that hung over her every moment. Max's protective instincts were more than just animal behavior. They were a warning she had to understand. With Daniel's support, she felt stronger, but the mystery surrounding Max's past still clouded her thoughts. One morning, Daniel suggested they visit the local shelter where Max might have come from. "Sometimes records or old neighbors can give clues," he said. Emma agreed, hoping for answers. At the shelter, the director greeted them warmly, but wore a serious expression when Emma mentioned Max. "He was brought in about 6 months ago," she said, "found injured near the forest trail, just like you described. No one claimed him." Emma's heart tightened. Did anyone report anything strange? Any incidents? The director nodded slowly. There were reports from hikers about a suspicious figure, some disturbances in the woods, but nothing concrete. Max was very wary, wouldn't let anyone near him at first. As they spoke, Emma felt Max shift beside her, his body tense but steady. It was as if he remembered more than the shelter could reveal. After leaving the shelter, Emma and Daniel decided to visit an elderly neighbor who had lived near the forest for decades. His name was Mr. Thompson, a quiet man with kind eyes and a deep knowledge of the area. Over tea, Mr. Thompson shared stories of the forest's past, how it had been a peaceful place, until a series of strange events unsettled the town. There were rumors, he said softly, about someone lurking in the woods, watching, waiting. Some folks said they heard cries late at night. Emma listened intently, the pieces falling into place. Max's fear was rooted in these stories. He had been there, witnessed the danger firsthand. Later that day, Emma found herself walking the trail alone, Max following close. The forest felt different now, charged with history and hidden pain. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes made Max snap to attention. He growled low and steady, body poised to protect. Emma stood firm, heart pounding, as a figure emerged. A man, gaunt and nervous, eyes darting nervously. It was clear he had been living rough, hidden away from the town. "Who are you?" Emma asked, voice steady. The man hesitated, then spoke quickly. I didn't mean harm. I was scared, running from something worse. Max growled again, but stayed by Emma's side, a silent guardian. Emma realized this man might hold the key to Max's past, and the danger they both feared. With Daniel's help, Emma decided to listen, hoping to finally uncover the truth and bring peace to Max's troubled soul. Emma watched the man cautiously, her heart pounding. Max remained alert but calm, standing protectively by her side. The stranger's eyes flicked nervously between Emma and the dog. "I'm Luke," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to scare anyone. I was hiding out here, running from some bad people." Emma's curiosity deepened. Bad people? What happened? Luke swallowed hard. "I was in trouble, caught up with some dangerous folks who wanted to hurt me. I escaped into the woods, but I didn't expect anyone to find me, or a dog like Max." Emma looked down at Max, who seemed to recognize something in Luke's voice. The dog's tail wagged slightly, a rare sign of comfort. Luke continued, "Max was with me for part of the time. He protected me when I couldn't protect myself. But one day, I had to leave him behind to keep him safe. I'm so sorry." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Max's loyalty wasn't just to her. It was to Luke, the stranger in the woods who had been his friend and protector before she came along. Daniel stepped forward gently. "Luke, thank you for being honest. We want to help, both you and Max." Together, they arranged for Luke to get support and a safe place to stay. Emma knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but now they had a chance to heal. Over the next weeks, Emma, Daniel, Luke, and Max formed an unlikely family. Luke worked to rebuild his life, finding peace he hadn't known in a long time. Max's fear slowly faded, replaced by trust and joy. Emma felt a deep gratitude for the dog she saved, for the stranger who revealed the truth, and for the unexpected journey that brought them together. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the window, Emma sat with Max on her lap. Luke was nearby, sharing a quiet laugh with Daniel. The warmth in the room was undeniable. Max looked up at Emma, eyes soft and content. She whispered, "Thank you for never leaving my side." Max wagged his tail, resting his head against her heart. In that moment, Emma knew they were all saved, not just by acts of kindness, but by the bonds forged in trust, courage, and love. The dog she saved wouldn't leave her side. And now, neither would the hope that grew from their shared story.